And so I want to share on the importance of the three major things that I think is key to how some people are in bondage and today prayerfully get out, break away from that kind of stupidity and bondage. With what's going on in the world, we can easily see how the masses are being controlled. And today, most people and groups believe that they are in some way, some form, disempowered, as if they have no power at all. And when you believe you are disempowered, you disconnect from your voice and your power to be. God never told you to become. He always said to be. That is the essence of who you are. It is a state of being in existence. And so to be disempowered means that you believe that you have no control over the outcome of your life. And that any change that will come into your life must come externally. You believe that instead of from within. And so therefore, the belief that you may have opens you up spiritually and mentally to outside forces because of your interdependence on voices to help guide your mental process. When you really don't need any outside voices, you need the voice of the Lord who is from the inside. The Spirit of God lives in you. He speaks from within you. He does not speak from without. If you're hearing a voice from without, an audible voice, that is the voice of the enemy, unless God himself is speaking to you, and you should be able to discern that. So we become disempowered by giving up our autonomy to be, to exist as God created us, and express our natural and authentic selves. I just believe very strongly that God made each one of us individually, and he made us uniquely. And so when we understand this moves us out of our personal power and into a place of disempowerment when we start to believe that we need somebody else to captain our lives. So, however, even if you believe you have no control over the outcome of your life, it doesn't mean that that's true. I don't care what condition you're in. Disempowered people tend to think that they are victims because of the rhetoric that is hand-fed to them on a daily basis. And they have allowed others to master them and their choices. And you'll be surprised. They are under the control of a medium. And this is where I believe that we need to get into this, because God can sentence you to succeed, but he cannot make you successful. God can bless you with a spouse, but he cannot make your marriage healthy. He can bless you with children, but he cannot make you a good parent. God is not a God who is a tyrant or an enforcer of his will. His will is simply something that you have to lend yourself over to and submit to it. You have to yield yourself so that God's will can be done. A man that thinks that he is a failure, he is a failure, because you are what you think about all day long. And if the devil can cause you to think that you are a poor, miserable, broke soul, that means that everything that you touch turns to trash, then that will be the case. And even if it's not trash, you will see it as such, because that's where you believe. And as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Satan, according to 2 Corinthians 4:4, the Bible says, whose minds the God of this age. The word God of this age, or age, means this dispensation, this era, this time. The God of this world has blinded who do not believe. So those who do not believe are blind, lest the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine on them. So we need to know that people that are blind because Satan, they have allowed Satan to blind them because of their unbelief, not Satan's unbelief. Satan believes in God. Your unbelief. And 1 John 5:19 says it like this. We know that we are of God. Here's an indication that will give you some clue to if you're with God or not. We know that we are of God, and the whole world lies under the sway or the influence of the wicked one. And we know that the wicked one is Satan. Now, three process words are used today to control people's behavior. And there is a reason why you think the way you think about money. There's a reason why you think the way you think about politicians and entertainment, religion, etc. It is because of these three powerful means that the enemy is so successfully using on people. And so I want you to think about it for just 1 second. When a human being is a human being, who determines that they're not? When is a human a human? And when do we have to decide on when that person is a human? In other words, society tells you that an embryo is not a person because you can't hit a heart yet. But why do we emphasize that distinction with seeds? What do you mean, Pastor? A watermelon seed is why we call it a watermelon seed. So humans are humans even in seed form. All right. Why do we have to decide now? It's basically because of the narrative or the things that you are hearing, the rhetorical things that are constantly coming through the media. The devil is effectively making and using every available process to seize and control our minds and keep us under the influence of his dominance. And so the three major things that I need you to emphasize and get this tonight, even if you want to take notes. And I mentioned it before on several times. I want to use three words. One is medium. The word medium implies spirit. So that you should know that. Medium is a key thing because you hear the media all the time. Media, rather. You got medium, then media. The word media implies image or message, controlling what you see and hear. And you'll be surprised how you are controlled by what you hear and what you see. Then the last one is meditate, meaning to concentrate or focus, which is through repetition. And we know that repetition is the mother of all learning. That's how we learned our multiplication. You kept going over it and over and over it, and you don't have to think about it anymore because you know now that 5 times 5 is, you're not adding it up, it's automatic. You already know it. 4 times 5 is, okay, see, 6 times 6. 151 by 152. See, now that'll confuse you because you haven't gone that deep into it. But all three words are connected and they find their roots in medium. And a medium is something or a person that is in the middle position. The thing by which or through which something is done or transmitted. The substance in which something lives. And the Bible tells us over in Leviticus 19 and 31, give no regard to mediums and for familiar spirits. Give no regard. That's Leviticus 19 and 31. You want to write it down. Give no regard to mediums and familiar spirits. Do not seek after them to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. Now, I don't know, they didn't put that up there, but if you can rush that up there real fast. Leviticus 19 and 31. And what did I say before? I did say that, right? Okay. Notice what he says. Give no regard to mediums and familiar spirits. And I'm going to share on that. And do not seek after them to be defiled by them, because the moment you entreat them, you're going to become defiled by them. And he says, for I am the Lord your God, meaning come to me if you need an answer. Do not seek among the dead what is happening with the living. Leviticus, the 20th chapter, the 6th verse, it says, and the person who turns to mediums and familiar spirits to prostitute himself with them, I will set my face against that person and cut him off from his people. So one sense, hear me, one sense of medium is a channel of communication. Demons using people and devices to channel their hypnotic control over people. And so one can say it is a television or newspaper or radio or the internet. These are all mediums in which the media expresses that spirit. But it's also an avenue through which demons or familiar spirits can gain access into a person's life by divination, transcendental meditation, are you hearing me? Visualization, necromancy, witchcraft, drugs, alcohol, and I can go on and on and on. The word familiar, which is important for you to get so that you understand that, it comes from a Latin word which means household servant. Catch it. Household servant. And it's intended to express the idea that sorcerers or witches or warlocks, whatever, had spirits as their servants ready to obey their commands, and they practice that all the time. They're releasing spirits to go out and like spells on people. And those spirits have the audacity to go in the places that they're not welcomed. Because oftentimes you have not welcomed them into your life, but there are things that you do that gives them authorizations to come into your life. Over in Luke, the 11th chapter, I'm giving you an example. Luke, the 11th chapter, starting at the 24th verse, it says, when an unclean spirit, this is Jesus talking. This is not the Old Testament, which is a part of the Testament period. Luke 11 and 24, when an unclean spirit goes out of a man, when he's cast out, he goes through dry places. If you want to, highlight that word dry places, because that's important. That means that the enemy, the devil or the spirit, has no place of residence. And it's called a place of unrest. So demons are at rest in your heart and in your mind, unless they are in a dry place where there is no one to control, no one that they can give their message to. So he says they go through dry places seeking what? And finding none. And the demon is speaking, and it says, and he says, I will return to what? That's ownership. He is saying that even though he was cast out, he still has access by some means that you may be unaware of that gives him authorization to come back home. And you, without realizing it, have a household servant who does not do what you want, but gets you to do what they want. It says, I will return to my house from which I came, and when he comes, he finds it swept and put in order. That means your whole thought process, everything is put in order, your heart is clean. And it says, then he goes and takes with him how many others? 7. That means there's such a power in 7 that even demons know. That if I'm going to finalize or empower my grip, I need 7 more demons. And so he gets 7 more spirits more wicked than himself. And they enter, and they enter, and they enter, and they enter, and they enter. How do they enter? That's important. They enter and dwell there, and the last state of that man is worse than the first. Go to Mark, the 5th chapter. Jesus, if you remember the story, he's casting out a devil out of a man who was a maniac, or he's considered a lunatic. Now, a lunatic is someone who's affected by the full moon. On a full moon, you may see him out there, whoo, like a wolf, but I'm only teasing you. Because some of you are like, oh, that's deep. No, I'm teasing you. But they are affected. That's why they say most crime is done on a full moon. It's documented. But this man was a lunatic. He was crazy. Mark 5 in the 9th verse says, when he asked him, when he's casting out this devil, he says, what is your name? And he answered saying, my name, notice they speak singular, but they are plural. This is how powerful the enemy is. The devil always operates as one. We in the body of Christ, who should operate in one and should have learned the lesson by which God himself is one God, we are just the opposite. And therefore, because we are so divided, our power is divided. We become neutral in what we should be doing and overcoming. But notice the one demon, the multiple demons are speaking as one. They said mine, not us or ours. My name is Legion, for we are many. Also, he begged him earnestly. Did he not? He begged him. What? So who is speaking when he begged him? The spirit, right? The demonic spirits. They are begging Christ earnestly that he would send them, that he would not send them out of the country. Why would they beg to not leave the country? Why are they asking Jesus, don't send us out? You're already casting us out. Why are they saying, don't send us into another country? Because this response is because spirits claim territorially by arrangements and agreements. You better hear what I'm about to say. Jesus did not adhere to what this demon said, but by spiritual law, he had to adhere to what he requests because he could not send him away because of the arrangement and the agreement he had territorially, or they had. Now listen to what I'm about to say. This is why demons can be cast out and come back. Because demons authorize or is authorized to set up camp wherever an agreement or an arrangement has been set with them, whether that's written by act or by gesture. So if you've ever had a palm reading, or you got into crystal balls, or horoscopes, tarot card reading, Ouija boards, magic spells, scary games, and even horror movies, etc. You might not realize how much you've opened yourself to demons territorially. Because demons are authorized to traffic in darkness. Wherever darkness exists in your life, they have authorization to move in that area. So demons can claim territory in your life because you engaged in multiple activities where they have arrangements and agreements to legitimately operate. And you don't even know you're on their turf. And yet, that's your life. So Jesus can cast out the devil, but he can't send them away. When the devil is cast out, the initial thing you want to do is to send them somewhere. So what did Jesus do? If you know the verse, they said, send us into the swine, into the pigs. Send us into the pigs where I can take some control. Remember, the nature of the enemy is to steal, kill, and... So when Jesus said, you can go into the swine, over 2,000 swine got demonically filled, ran over a cliff, and committed suicide. One of the things we got to realize that they're a lot smarter than we are. Because they would rather commit suicide than to let the devil control them. So when you find your behavior is changed about certain things that you once believed, this may be a sign that a familiar spirit has gained access into your psyche to shift your belief in their favor. When you come to believe that God is Savior and all of a sudden you get to a place you don't believe He exists, there's a shifting in the mindset. The plural of the sense of medium, the plural, it deals with media, vast, different forms or venues of media, rather. And they gather data and variety of data, and this is where you and I are. We are experienced and influenced by Hollywood. Say no. Say yes, it is. We're influenced by news outlets. Did y'all know that Russia has invaded Ukraine? Why won't they share that? They choose what information you hear. You know how many people died from the vaccination? It's because they choose not to disclose the information. Motivational speakers can be a horrible demonic outlet. Schools, yes, and even churches, which has led us to believe truth or error. And the Bible says this, there's only really two spirits in terms of what information comes out, truth or error, no gray areas. 1 Peter 4:1 says, now the Spirit expressly says, or speak it expressly. 1 Timothy 4:1. Now therefore, 1 Timothy 4:1. Now the Spirit expressly says that in latter times some will depart. Some will depart. Some will depart. Why is there a mass exit? That some people depart from faith. Notice, and he gives an example, giving heed to, that means listening, to really seducing or deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons, which are inspired theories. You'll be surprised how you're controlled by theories. 1 John 4 and 6 makes it plain. John is a powerful prophet and preacher. He says, we are of God. 1 John 4 and 6. We are of God. He who knows God hears us. Here is the truth. If you know God, you'll recognize the voice of God coming out of the speaker. That's what John is saying. He who knows God hears us. He who is not of God does not hear us. By this we know what? The spirit of truth and the spirit of error. There is more error in the church than you can possibly imagine. It's not just in the media. Christians and non-Christians are noted by who they get their information through. John said, if you know God, this is what John, if you know God, you will hear God through us who speaks to you. You will know it. You will discern, oh, that is the Lord speaking. You don't need somebody to say, that's the Lord. You will know that's the Lord speaking. Because you got to be careful. Because I can be preaching or someone else is preaching, but a spirit or a familiar spirit can be in operation right among us, saying all the amens and not accepting not a single truth. How do I know? Because in the Bible, in the book of Acts, Paul is preaching the gospel. For 3 whole days he's preaching. And there's one woman who has a spirit on her. And she goes around saying and agreeing, this is the man of God, hear him, hear him. I'm leery when people are that encouraging. And she's going around saying, hear him for 3 days, and he did not detect the spirit that was on that woman until the 3rd day. The Spirit of God revealed it to him, and he cast the demon out of that woman. John was simply saying, if you know God, you'll know his voice. That's what Jesus said. If that's why he said, if you've heard me, you've heard the Father, or seen me, you've seen the Father. He said, everything I'm saying, I'm getting it from God. So obviously, if God is speaking through your spiritual leader, and if you cannot discern that if it's God or not, it may be because you have lost your connection with him. It's very simple. You don't need a rocket scientist to figure it out. Somewhere there's a loss of affection and you're disconnected from the source. Therefore, you can't hear it. So when I'm speaking, it's almost like you're saying, I can't hear you. You're coming in broken. There's a reason why. Because there is a blockage somewhere in our communication. I'm speaking from God, but you're hearing another source. Have you ever heard me preach or anyone preach, and you're hearing another thing at the time they were preaching, but you was getting mad at what you were hearing? Your heart was getting harder and harder as you listened to that word, and you was taking everything personally. He's talking about me. He doesn't even know you. John 8:47 says, he who is of God hears God's words, and therefore you do not hear because you are not of God. That's Jesus himself saying it. Saying all the information that God is giving across the various media, most people can't hear it. Your inability to discern God's voice in any matter, as one may claim to be a Christian, simply demonstrates your disconnection in your relationship with him. So the most dominant voice in your head and in your heart is what you give your attention to. This is why you got to be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Now, the word medium, as I said, was spirit. Media, image, and message, controlling what you see and hear. And then the last one is meditate or meditation, concentrate or focus, a spirit or a demon that serves as it prompts an individual, causes you to focus. So the media can control your thinking by repetition. Tell me that's not true. We even know that repetition is the mother of all learning. I mentioned that. So you will hear the media use terms repetitively. Racism, critical race theory, Trump, vaccination mandate, defund the police, which are all played repeatedly in so many more words until the masses repeat these terms like an incantation or a chant or spells. And you go around repeating those words over and over and over and over and over, because every time you open your mouth, you're programming somebody, rather for good or bad or indifference. So when you keep hearing things, mandate, 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 you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your job, fear overcomes you. Right. The enemy is good at what he does. If you follow fashion, you want the latest clothes. If you watch mainstream news, you are full of fear and gossip about celebrities. You want to hear about what celebrities are doing. If you're an activist, your whole world is full of solving problems and fighting. You're an activist. So it's really never black or white in this case, but we have varying degrees of exposure to different outlets. All of us. We are all influenced in diverse ways, but the majority of people have significant exposure to mainstream culture. And this is prevalent, this is a very prevalent influence in most societies. And listen to me very carefully. You are influenced by your environment.